2020 regular county board meeting to order at 9 a.m. at the historic courthouse. First order of business is the pledge allegiance to the flag and a moment of silence, if you'd please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Number 2 on the agenda is open forum. Obviously, we're not letting the public in to the historic courthouse, so we don't have anybody here. Did we receive any? I have not received any correspondence. Last time I did, that they wanted it read. Anything from the county administrator that we've received that they wanted read?
Mr. Chair, we did receive correspondence, but it is regarding the Second Amendment dedicated county resolution, so it's on your agenda if you want.
Okay.
To be honest, it's a lot to read.
Okay. Any of the other commissioners got any correspondence from their constituents that they want read in open forum?
I do not.
None. Review and approval of the minutes for the March 24th regular county board meeting minutes, and we'll take these together, and the emergency county board meeting on April the 3rd, 2020. Any changes or corrections that we know of?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Franzine,
I'll second.
seconded by Commissioner Brecken. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Review and approval of today's agenda, and before we do that, I'm going to take number 6 off the agenda for today and place it on a later date when the public is able to come in and weigh in on this issue. So that was number 6 will be off the agenda for today. Any changes or additions from the county board or the county administrator? All in favor of that motion, or is there a motion?
There's a motion to approve with the removal of 6.1.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Franzine with the removal of number 6. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Barrows. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Number 5 is the consent agenda. Is there, before I ask for a motion, is there anybody that has any questions, or any of the county board members has any questions on anything that's on the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Commissioner Franzine,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Brecken on the consent agenda. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Moving on to number 7 on the county board's agenda for today is the county engineer. Approval of the 2024 highway improvement plan. Ray.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Thank you again for having me today. I am going to go through a presentation of the 2020 to 2024 Highway Improvement Plan. This is a follow-up to our March 3rd meeting for the Transportation Advisory Committee, where all of the materials in your packet were discussed. And after my presentation, I'll be obviously taking questions and asking for the adoption of it. So, Therese, can you bring out my presentation?
And Tim, just so the public knows what this is
Yes.
This is your department's 5-year plan of what the county highway department will do as far as roads, as far as repairs, as far as reconstruction. This is what your 5-year plan, or what you say is what your promises are to the citizens of Crow Wing County, correct?
Yes, this, sorry, the highway improvement plan, we call it the HIP, is all of those things you say. I like to think we developed it together, not just from my office, from your input at the Transportation Advisory Committee meeting where all of you were present and your constituent representatives were there too, providing input on the
And then-
plan for the next 5 years.
Then, Tim, I might say the Transportation Advisory Committee is all 5 of the county commissioners, and each one of the county commissioners has the opportunity to appoint one citizen advisor. So each one of us has a citizen advisor on the committee, correct?
Correct.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we traditionally meet in March. This year was March 3rd. And since then, we've received your comments and incorporated them, and also had some changes I'll go over in terms of more money has come our way, and I'll explain that in a little bit. Okay?
Very good, Tim, thanks.
So the first, here is the picture every year, and Paul, this is CASA 26 that we did last year. We look for a
Yes.
picture every year to put on the front page of this. I'm happy to report this is in your district, and it looks really
Very
nice.
nice
Beautiful
road.
picture, actually. So the first thing I start with is really summarizing the whole 5-year plan, which includes this year, 2020. And the total investment over the whole 5 years is projected to be $75.9 million. And that's actually about a $10 million or more increase over what you may have seen in the same document last year. And that's representative of our plans to deliver County Road 115 in 23 and 24. In this plan, it includes the north half of 115. Of course, last year you had approved 2023 being the first year of the south half, the Ojibwe half. So it is a little bit increased from the following years, but by about 10 million. And included in that 75.9 million is $6.4 million of federal money. This is what comes to us through grants and competitive process at the regional level to provide road repairs. This actually increased since March, where we were awarded over $1 million of federal highway safety improvement money. We're going to be able to improve 4 intersections with left turn lanes, and then also some other safety improvements around the county. County state aid, this is $25.7 million. This is what the county gets through gas tax as we pay at the pump, and it kind of filters down from a huge fund that the state maintains and distributes. The Crow Wing County Road and Bridge Levy makes up $3.7 million of the total. The first assessment district is included in here. We're planning to spend $2.3 million on those roads. And I have maps for all this coming up. And the local option sales tax is $35.6 million, what we're planning to spend over the next 5 years.
And Tim, can I just stop you there? Just
Yes.
so everybody knows that the first and the second assessment district is what people call unorganized territory.
That's correct.
It's not an organized township, so they do not have a town board. So
Correct.
the County Board of Commissioners acts as the town board for that area, and so that's thus why that's on your list, because we are the town board for the first and second assessment
Yes.
district.
And expanding a little bit on those two particular unorganized townships have their own township level road and bridge levy, which is separate from the county road and bridge levy. And that's why that is separate. $2.3 million of township level taxes going in to pay for the road system over the next 5 years.
Correct.
Some bridge bonding in there. It comes from the state for, it could be local bridges or even county bridges. And $1.9 million of cost sharing. This is the construction that we share with our partners that they may enter or get into our contracts to hopefully realize economy of scale savings for either cities or townships. And this has been on the increase, particularly in the realm of seal coating and maybe crack sealing and some other maintenance activities, even mill and overlays. It encompasses 149 miles of roadway surface improvements, and there's a breakdown there between the state aid system, the county road system, and First Assessment District. Of the 149 miles, we're proposing or projecting that 63 miles of that will be funded with the local option sales tax. So that $35.6 million you see up above is going to be used to make those 63 miles of improvements. In the plan, you'll see the proposal for 3 roundabouts, and I'll highlight some of those locations if I can, and 2 bridge replacements, and also 1 bridge deck improvement. And those are the most significant things in the plan. Any questions?
Any questions from the county board? No.
Here is a graphical representation of all of those improvements that you see. You can see that it's all over and a lot of roads. So 149 miles there you see, and it's characterized by colors corresponding to the years. 2020 is all the ones in green, and I think I have a specific slide for that. And I always try to do this. We use a lot of science here at the county to drive our data-driven decisions. We partner with MnDOT to gather road quality index numbers. And this is the fancy van that goes around with lasers and things like that that actually measures the road, so we can compare one road in one part of the county to another in a completely different part of the county, so we can make sure that we are addressing the needs and it makes it equitable, making those decisions equitable. And what I try to do every year, and I usually mess it up, is to show you that the areas in red are the ones that are the roughest right now, the poorest shape, are where we're spending the money. And I can tell you that there's a lot less red and orange than it has been over the years. And we're definitely making an impact with the increased revenue that we've seen. So just switching between those, you see where there's red and orange roads, we have a project scheduled. And I'm happy to report 115 is also in there in its entirety. Here's a summary just breaking out the local options sales tax, which projects will be fully funded or partially funded with local option sales tax over the next 5 years. Again, pretty spread out. This is the 63 miles that I just spoke about earlier. And here is a list of proposed changes. I won't go through the list completely, but it includes some projects that were moved up. The one that it's currently, actually, it sounds like the city of Baxter, or city of Brainerd, may move it to 2021, but actually Jackson Street, the roundabout, and the improvements from 210 down to the ice rink and then up to Beaver Dam Road were originally scheduled for 2021. It was moved up in this plan to 2020, where we partnered with them. We're actually going to turn that road back. You had already signed an agreement with the city of Brainerd for that. Also doing some partnering with our adjacent counties and following their schedule if we can, so that moved up. And some moved up and some back. So Morrison County, we have a small project with them, and also Cass County that's contained in here. And then some other ones where we had gotten the federal highway safety improvement money that had not appeared in the 5-year plan before, but it is now because we were successful getting the grant. There is nothing that was delayed in this list. Here's the 2020 broken out. I know you can't read that, but you can see graphically it's still spread out around the county. It is the largest construction program that we've ever undertaken at the Highway Department. We have 4 reconstruction projects this year, which include the intersection at Sportland Corner, which is 1377. The east portion from Lake Edward Township Hall, basically, to County Road 137, that's a reconstruct. We have a reconstruct of Highways 36 and 37 south of Cross Lake proper. And then also small reconstruction project here in Jenkins on County Road 145. So we have a very, very busy summer, and we're happy to be moving forward with construction. It's already started. Our contractors have already mobilized equipment there, and I think the first one you'll see will be a detour starting near the Lake Edward Township Hall coming up on the 20th, so later this week. Any questions on that? That's just this year, and everything is on track. We've let our last contracts, the last one to be let or bid is this one here on 145. It was actually in your packet in the consent agenda to be awarded today. Any questions on 2020? As you mentioned, Paul, our Commissioner Coring, is that we are responsible for the first assessment district. This is a graphical representation of what we're planning to do over the next 5 years in the first assessment district. You can see that there's a wide variety of locations. It is the largest, it's actually about, in terms of areas, about a township and a half. And it encompasses about 60 miles of roads. There's a lot of smaller roads that we're doing here. And so in 2020, we're proposing 3 roads to be addressed, primarily with mill and overlays. That's Peterson Road, Sauter Road, and then Round Lake Road, primarily up in this area here.
And then, Tim, I would venture to guess that a great majority of the development in Crow Wing County occurs in this area, in the unorganized territory. And what happens is when a development occurs, and if the developer puts in a road, and it's to our specs, we take that road over. And so that increases our mileage of roads, increases our amount of labor, plowing, and so on and so forth. And this continues on. But then obviously it increases the tax base too when you have more houses there, so.
I think it still continues to be the fastest growing in terms of development. I know that some of the earlier discussions that you have addressed about zoning and some pressures for commercial zoning up primarily in this area along 77 certainly plays into that too. And it is your decision whether to take over a roadway that has been proposed by a developer. We do have road specifications, including pavement and proper amounts of right-of-way to maintain it. So this is 2020 through 2024 proposal. And I kind of do the same thing. We track it, the road pavement quality, and we're spending the money where it's needed the most. We do address it in regions too, so we don't jump around, from one end to the other. So we might take areas, roadways that are kind of in a geographical area and address them all at the same time for cost savings.
And Tim, one other, I'm giving you a little editorial comments, but I think it's important so that people know that all the money that it's being used to fix these roads is all levy dollars. By state statute, the sales tax dollars cannot be spent on these roads. Is that correct?
That is correct. This is the township level road and bridge levy I spoke about earlier that funds these. The next thing I want to go into is my annual report about how the local option sales tax and our plan to eliminate the deferments of roadway improvements is progressing. A roadway deferment is a road that is beyond our threshold or established thresholds for roughness that should be fixed this year or in the coming years, but we don't have enough money to do that. An ideal situation, as soon as it becomes rough enough to go over our thresholds, it is planned and done that year. So when the local option sales tax was discussed back in 2015 and eventually adopted, we had a plan to eliminate deferments, and it was about a 15-year plan. And so if looking at this, I have it broken out statewide, which is the combination of state aid and county roads. So this encompasses both of these. I broke them out. Back in 2015, when we were talking about the local option sales tax, the analysis that I did said that with the extra revenue that we're planning to generate, this is the curve in deferment elimination that we could achieve. And so I'm reporting against that every year. How are we progressing against what we said we were going to be able to do? And the lines below, I'm going to start in the state system-wide level, the combination of county road and state aid, is that back then, I thought that we would have, with the money that was projected to be generated from local option sales tax, to be at 67 miles of deferments. Well, I'm happy to report that we are currently at 40 and are actually above or ahead of schedule, so to speak. And also down in these two, there is an actual projection for state aid and then county road here. It wasn't until recently that we started to get below this line here, which means we're ahead of schedule, so to speak. And so I'm happy to report that we are leveraging that the way it was intended. I want to just quickly point out that it's a little bit starting to plateau here in these years, 23 and 24. And the reason why that is County Road 15 is a good expenditure, a big expenditure. And that is a reconstruction project that is 5 miles long. And reconstruction is much more expensive than mill and overlays or just simply resurfacing. So we're not able to do as many miles with that same amount of money. So it's plateauing out, and as soon as that is done, I would expect that curve to start to take this shape again, and we start to see an increase in or a decrease in deferments at a higher level. Any questions about that one? Here is, just want to go over what we have accomplished in the last 5 years. So this is 2016 when the local option sales tax started, our first, where it was actually a revenue for us. It was enacted in 15, but we didn't start collecting until 16. And for the local option sales tax, this is what we've accomplished with that money over the last 5 years. This is what we've accomplished with all of our revenue sources over the last, this is an additional 2 years, since 2014. You can see we've done a lot of construction, and it's noticeable. Here's what we've accomplished since 2014 in the first assessment district. Again, a lot of mileage. We touch a lot of different areas. There's still work to do. We have a little bit less revenue at our disposal, just $2.3 million over the next 5 years, but still accomplishing a great deal in that time frame. And that's my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you
Any
may have.
questions from the county board? Commissioner Barrows.
Thank you. Chair, Tim, has any adjustments been made, given what we're currently going through? With respect to, the sales tax, we think it's gonna be a dip. So I'm assuming there's gonna be a reassessment or a reanalysis of looking at what we're proposing, particularly for 2021 and further out than this year. This year's already booked, so.
Yes, great question, thank you. 2020, we're on track and are able to deliver. And we have not made adjustments to what we discussed at the Transportation Advisory Committee meeting on March 3rd. The only thing for certain is that it will decline. We don't know how far. It's too early yet. We haven't even really gotten a sales tax disbursement from the Department of Revenue yet for March or April when this really got going. The good thing about this is that every year we meet in March, and my guess is we'll meet sooner than this as the trending data for the collection of the local option sales tax becomes apparent. We may have to make some adjustments next year as all of us need to look at that. The good thing is that we've had a lot of discussions, and even 2-3 years ago, maybe the overused term of volatility. You remember that term that we talked about all the time when we were talking about local option sales tax? I mean, almost to nauseam about how volatile it was. And we've been planning for ups and downs in the economy because the local option sales tax in the Brainerd Lakes area and the tourism industry is subject to many things, including the weather and things like that. We couldn't anticipate this. So we're building a fund balance knowing the volatility of it. And so we maintain a healthy fund balance. Whether that fairly significant fund balance will get us through this inevitable dip in this, it's too early to tell. And we need to see the trending data to see if there truly is a reduction or a significant reduction where it has to make us revisit some of the projects that we had talked about in the 5-year plan in the past. Every year we get to look at this and adjust. So far, we've never had to adjust much. If at all, we've moved projects up. It might be a little bit more difficult to move projects up based on what we learn over the next year. So it is as proposed back in March. In 2020, we will deliver. It is our largest construction program ever. A lot of that's federal money that's coming regardless. There's a lot of it's state aid money that's coming regardless. And that fund balance, if we have to utilize it for local option sales tax, we will do so this year to deliver 2020 construction.
Thank you.
Any further questions from the county board? I just want to say that I don't like to speak for the county board too much, but I know I can speak on their behalf now and just say thanks to your staff for your continued hard work. I'm amazed that I think you're at 38 people, including yourself?
36.
36 people covering the entire county, and I marvel at that. So we really appreciate that hard work that you and your staff are putting in. Looks like we've got a request for board action in your packet that for the county board. Is there a motion to approve the 2020-2024 highway improvement plan?
So moved. I'll second that.
So moved by Commissioner Franzine, seconded by Commissioner Barrows. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
County Sheriff, County Attorney, Don, you've got anything you'd like to talk to the county board about?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I just haven't been here for so
Don, can you
long.
just pull it down a little bit? There you go.
I just haven't been here for so long, I thought you might have forgot what I look like. So I thought I'd come in today and say hi. We continue, as well as the rest of the county employees, to work through this COVID-19 situation. And I don't know how many people are reporting to you directly, but I can tell you that most of what I'm doing is out of my office. I haven't had one day yet where I didn't deal with some kind of COVID-19 something and coordinating with John Bowen or Michelle Moritz or Tim or some department. Scott Goddard and I are in constant communication as well. And I just wanted to let you know that the employees of the county, I think, are doing a fabulous job. And I think they're so focused on doing their job, they may not be reporting to you or to Tim, and I know we're deferring most of the inquiries from the media to central administration, because in a situation like this, we need to have a centralized voice with the press, and Tim does a good job of that. So I really didn't come prepared to say anything, but since you gave me the opportunity, I just wanted to put a plug in there for all of our employees, and thank you for the support that you're providing to them as well. I can answer any questions you might have, but
Any questions of Don, the county attorney?
thank you. Stay safe, everybody.
Don, thanks
thank
on
you.
behalf of the county board. Thanks to you and your excellent staff for the hard work you're doing in this difficult time. Appreciate it very much. Yep. County administrator.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I don't have board action for you today, just a report on the senior management team, which, as you can imagine, is completely COVID-related as well. And so we talked yesterday about some of the planning efforts that have been going on, should we see a surge in COVID cases within our community. And so, like Don said, I think a shout out to John Bowen and Michelle Moritz in particular. They are working yeoman's duty behind the scenes to try to help us coordinate that effort, both with our local resources and our local connections, but also with the state and federal FEMA to try to make sure that we can get as much personal protective equipment into our county to help those first responders and healthcare workers that are going to need to deal with our cases. Our case count today is up to 17. And so we did go up another one today. I looked, and I'm kind of keeping track of it, and what that reflects is a doubling time of about a week, which compared to other parts of the nation and other parts of the state is a pretty slow rate of increase, which is a good thing. I wish it was zero, but it's not. And so we continue to try to plan for as those numbers will, I believe, slowly edge up. And slowly is the key word there, that we try to get it to edge up as slowly as we possibly can. That has implications. It has implications within our community for businesses, for the tourist industry, and for all sorts of impacts on county government. And you just mentioned one of them, what will happen with the sales tax proceeds that help to fund our road projects. And we also talked about the financial implications as well. COVID will place challenges on our budget for this year and for the coming years. And, you know, I'm thankful that you have authorized acting quickly with a number of things. So you may recall at your emergency meeting, you froze capital projects that have not yet been encumbered. That will help tremendously. That's almost $1 million that we will not be committing to one purpose, which makes it available for the other purpose. And so I'm also working with Gary about freeing up some resources in land services, also working with Debbie to free up some resources within IT that will help as well. My hope is that that'll bring that war chest up to about $1.2 million in resources that would be recommitted to these purposes. We will be monitoring very closely what happens with the various threats that are out there, whether that's to gas tax revenues because people are driving less, or sales tax revenues because they're purchasing differently. And so we'll be monitoring those ebbs and flows very closely over the course of time. Also, as a follow-up to what you authorized at your last meeting, we will be having a first convening today of grocery store owners throughout the county, and it really is just to share safety practices. We don't believe that safety is a competitive commodity. Safety is something that we are all equally interested in, and so in that cooperative, collaborative spirit, we will be focusing on industries coming together to share what they are seeing as best practices. They're all getting direction, if they're corporate, from a corporate office, but there's no reason why we can't share all of those different ideas across that industry. So today is the first one of those calls. I would say that this is sort of an experimental process. We're going to learn as we go. There will be other industries like convenience stores or campgrounds, things like that. And this is kind of consistent with what I think the governor has been talking about in terms of trying to figure out ways to safely reopen parts of our economy. I think we're all coming to the realization that we're going to need to live with this for a while. And so how are we going to live with it as safely as we can? And I think these conversations have potential to lend themselves to that effort. And so what we learn from those calls, we will be able to share with the state departments that are contemplating how do you safely reopen it. And I think that's probably a reflection that Crow Wing County, thanks to your leadership, has been at the forefront of counties in dealing with the COVID-19 crisis. You are the only county in the state of Minnesota, to the best of my knowledge, that has implemented property tax relief. Let me repeat that. You are the only county in the state of Minnesota that has implemented property tax relief. There is conversations down at the legislature and lots of conversations among other counties. My concern about that would be that May 15th is approaching very, very quickly, and they will have lost 2 weeks worth of time to actually process anything that they would agree to come up with and to provide notice to people that gives them time to marshal resources if they're not included in whatever comes of that. If there is a state action on that, we may need to modify our actions to come into conformity with that to make sure. But you may recall, we had talked to school districts throughout the county, we've talked to cities throughout the county, we talked to townships around the county about trying to do that. I worry that the state of Minnesota will have, it's an awfully blunt instrument when you do state policy. And so I would worry that what they do could have significant negative impacts on those other jurisdictions and other counties in particular. So clearly I think the preference would be to allow counties to do their own analysis and to let them act independently. And so I applaud you for the leadership of already having done that. I would also note we did place an ad in a newspaper over the weekend, and you guys have been offering your services to help folks to navigate the different COVID resources that may be out there. None of us are really experts on all of the new stuff that is coming. We're all learning very, very fast, drinking from the fire hose, if you will. But I am pleased to be able to have staff resources available to you to help with those constituent concerns that may come up and helping them to navigate through this labyrinth of new stuff that is out there. I think it becomes very, very complicated. So that's the report I have for you today on COVID. Happy to answer questions about that or anything else related to county government.
Any questions from the county?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I do.
Brecken.
Do you have, Tim, any updates on how the property tax is, are people using it? Are they applying for it?
We do.
I see
as of
Gary's
last-
here too, I see.
As of last Friday, we had, I believe it was 14 applications, but if Gary's here, he can probably speak to that more accurately up to today.
Gary Griffin, Land Services Director.
Hey, good morning, Commissioner. Commissioner Brecken, as of actually about 9 o'clock, we have 32 applicants. Roughly around half of them are unemployed folks that have been laid off due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We have a multitude of different businesses that have applied, dental offices, restaurants, resorts. And so we are working through them. We're hoping to give the board an official update exactly, hopefully by Friday, on how many have been approved, how many have been denied, exactly why, and you'll have a official update hopefully by Friday.
Any other questions for Gary?
Well, if I
Commissioner
can, thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there anything, I know that there's some commercial businesses that are struggling. Is there anything that, besides property tax, that of ideas or anything that we could do for, to help alleviate or bridge or with that? Because again, not all commercial businesses are going to qualify.
I probably got to defer to our county administrator on that. He's a little more knowledgeable in that area.
Mr. Chair, members, that's a complicated question. And so right now, I know that the analysis that we did for the property tax relief, that is about what I think county government can provide at this point without negatively impacting the operations of school districts, cities, towns, and the county. And so I don't believe there would be anything as it relates to property tax relief. We do sit on some highly restricted funds that could be marshaled for alternative resources if we got authorization from the state to do so. We don't currently have that, but there is a fair amount of highly restricted funds. I think about long-term care trust for the landfill is probably the one that jumps out at my mind. And so if there is some interest in pursuing that, we could look for some alternatives and come back to you with some kind of a proposal if that pleases the board.
Any other questions? Commissioner Franzi?
This isn't really a question, but you said you're meeting with the grocery store owners today, and you'll be meeting with other groups. Would you please just give us a short summary after each meeting?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Good suggestion.
Gary, as long as you're here, I guess I'd like to have you give the county board, and as long as the Brainerd Dispatch is here, any updates that you deem are necessary. You did talk to me, and I'm sure you talked to Commissioner Hoag, and I don't know if you called Commissioner Brecken, you were reaching out to everybody, but the mattress program that we have, the recycling place in Duluth, they have given you notice that they are indefinitely, until further notice, closed. We've got 3 semi-loads of mattresses ready for recycling with no place to go, and so we have no choice. Well, you go ahead and let us know, give us an update on what's going on, the recycling, not only the mattresses, but everything else. Everything is shifting because of what's happening.
Sure. This kind of preempts an email you'd have been getting from me here by noon, but Commissioner Coring, the mattress program, currently we are sending out a press release today to suspend it as far as recycling mattresses. What will be important for our citizens to know, you can still bring mattresses to the landfill. Unfortunately, we are not able at this time to recycle them because there is no place to take them once we have them recycled. And we currently, yes, have 3 semi-loads. We also have a shed there that's already almost half full from recycled mattresses, and we don't know how long we may be sitting on the mattresses we already have in our recycling program. It could be for quite some time. So until further notice, we will be landfilling our mattresses. Unfortunately, they take up a lot of space. They cause other problems with our equipment out there. Thus, to landfill a mattress, it's $28 versus recycling, say like a king size, would be half that. So it is an additional cost to our citizens. The state of recycling is in tough shape, if I can just say that the cost to recycle has really spiked over the last, let's say, year. With that, we are looking at more and more creative ways to keep a robust recycling program for the citizens of Crow Wing County. We are currently working on that. We're going to come to the Committee of the Whole in May. And unfortunately, with the funding situation, the Cross Lake drop site will be closed as of May 31st. And we're going to move forward with that closure. So you will probably get some calls on that, and that's why I was reaching out to some folks last night. With that, some other quick updates. We have most of our recording staff working from home. Recording documents at home on one screen is just not as effective as it is when you're here in the office. We're about 500 some documents behind. That's roughly a week to 2 weeks behind where we normally would be. That number will probably continue to climb. We're going to have to probably figure out a better, more effective way to stay on top of those numbers if this continues for an extended period of time, which it looks like it's going to. Tax payments are coming in. That's a good thing. We've had some issues with, great, I hope you stop or I'll take it. Yeah.
Okay.
I hope that you can everybody can pay on time if they can, but a lot of them have come in. We have roughly about 3 bins of tax payments now that right now our batch processor is having still some issues, so we're kind of behind on that too, and trying to make every effort to get through those payments. Folks are, a lot of times if it is a 2-week delay on getting a check from somebody getting it processed, they have some problems going, why haven't that cleared? Why isn't it cleared? And it just creates more work because they'll start calling, and we don't, hopefully don't experience too much of that. So there's a few updates. There's probably a handful of more things that I'll have in an email to you yet today. But anything else from the board, from the Land Services side?
Well, I just want to say, I continue to be amazed at you and your department about, I don't have the entire list, and I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I mean, it's from marriage certificates to death certificates to recording deeds to assessing properties to the landfill to getting the permits for the landfill to it's just from A to Z. I mean, I just I guess sometime I wonder how you guys get it done. It's just it's amazing. So
We have some magic wands over in the closet over there.
exactly.
We wave once in a while.
I think we're going to all need a magic wand. Any questions for Gary, Land Services Director? Gary, thanks a lot.
Yep, thank you.
Any additional business to come before the county board?
Mr. Chair, may I?
County Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The impacts that you're talking about are really kind of mind-boggling. If you start to think about the different elements of county government, how has that impacted on law enforcement and the way that which they do their business? We've seen 500 new cases for public assistance that have come up, no doubt, because there are more people who are unemployed. And so the ripple impacts are really kind of everywhere. And it's sort of mind-boggling to think about how quickly we've all had to adjust to this new reality. I don't want to call it normal because I sure as heck hope it's not, but a new reality. And so just appreciate all the support that you've been able to give to the county staff in our efforts to do that. Really trying to do some twisty, bendy ideas. So even talked with Gary about our AIS inspectors and whether or not we could redirect any staff that may not have as high a volume of work that has dropped off. That has the potential to free up about $300,000 in resources for us. So really just thinking about really strange ideas that if you'd asked us a month ago, should we do that? We'd have looked at you very quizzically. But I think that's what's happening everywhere. I don't think that's unique to Crow Wing County. I think it's happening throughout our community. And so it's just actually sort of rewarding to watch so many people rise to the occasion to the best of our ability.
So, Mr. Houle, just you made me think of something else. Any further updates on what you're doing as far as the COVID-19? We did have a budget committee. You did say that somebody had offered up some masks, and there was talk of a trailer, and you did talk to the funeral homes. Do you want to elaborate on that, or?
Sure. It's a morbid subject, but one of the things that is in our all hazards emergency operations plan is a mass fatalities plan. And so we really don't know where this is going to go. And so we are ramping up our planning efforts in that regard. So we have been in contact with all of the funeral directors through the county to try to establish, what would their needs be for personal protective equipment? What is their capacity as it relates to storage? We've certainly seen the news coming out of New York City, and God help us, I don't want us to be in that circumstance. But we do plan for the worst, and then we pray for the best. And so we've had those kinds of conversations. We are trying to locate PPE wherever we can, and we did locate some locally from a medical supply company, so I think that's very helpful for our community. Just anything that we can think to do. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention was the public has been donating very nicely as well, and we have local industries that are ramping up to start to produce face masks, I'm aware of. The plastic shields that are used in healthcare. And so watching our local industries adapt to meet strange new demands, I know, is really, in a way, it's kind of rewarding to just see how people are adapting. But unfortunately, we also get involved in some planning that I would really rather never have to be involved in.
Well, I hope that we move forward with caution and not go overboard with any purchases or anything that because it almost seems like we always talk, as far as social distancing and bending the curve. I hope when this is over with, I never hear that anymore, but it seems like we're bending the curve, so I think we're hopefully heading in the right direction, and I hope we don't need all the stuff that you've been talking about, and I just hope we don't get too carried away with preparing for something that hopefully never happens.
From your lips to God's ears.
Amen.
I couldn't agree more.
Amen. Anything else to come before the county board today? Bill?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Thought maybe you had something.
Nope.
I guess the chair would accept a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Commissioner Barrows makes the motion to adjourn, seconded by Commissioner Franzine. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Chelsea, We're adjourned.
Paul, do you want to do the welcome?
Pardon me?
Do you want to do the welcome today?